100% sure whether New York versus LA Beats was Street Sounds or not. Because Street Sounds was the label that handled all
Yeah.
the electro stuff.
Hmm.
I'm not 100% sure whether Street Sounds covered New York versus LA Beats. But I think even if you do a YouTube search, you should potentially get a video that has the music from New York versus LA Beats on it. It's
Right.
well worth digging
Classic.
out. Like it's absolute classic stuff. You know what I
Classic.
mean? So
Love it, man. I
really,
like
really
it.
good.
At my tender age of 39, I've only started collecting vinyl like
Right.
like a hipster, but is that even a popular term? But no, I feel like I wanted to get into vinyl again, not just not for the look of I have a record player, but it's because
It's
of
just
that.
connected to the culture.
But yeah, and like everybody I know, they're either DJs, rappers, old school breakers. Like I know all the old school b-boy heads from Scawny. Like Scawny's a record head. Like there's so many funny conversations about people going to his bathroom, opening up his bathroom cabinet, and records falling out of it. He's got that many. Like,
Uh,
uh, and I always had this like. I feel I have to get into collecting vinyl and understanding the history of the music too,
yeah.
in order to fully understand the picture of hip hop, because you can jump into hip hop now, listen to hip hop music from now, get into breaking that's popular now, but you'll never really understand like well the culture of it all, I think, without really understanding the sound of it.
Yeah, because you have that there. You look back into because the DJs were the people that hit the brakes. In
Hmm.
terms of
Hmm.
like the Herc
Yeah.
and all those
Yeah.
guys. You hear there's the stories, and then you were hearing about the mixtapes and stuff that these guys were
Yeah.
coming up with, and then you had the DJs that were attached to like with Melly Mel and all those guys and stuff. They were really the guys that were sort of innovating.
Yeah.
The scratch. I mean,
Yeah.
that you wouldn't have that as an
Right.
element in terms
Hmm.
of music today, unless these guys have been doing that at their parties and
Yeah.
finding ways of, even from them, the crazy way that they marked the records, they were
Hmm.
playing two of the same records and how they were able to
Yeah.
mark them so they could keep the beat flowing and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. I mean, it was ingenious
It
stuff
was.
that they were coming up with.
And they were teenagers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is why I think I love it so much, is because like the Bronx back in the day, like it was like the Bronx was burning was a
Yeah.
famous song about it and all, and it was like if you look up old footage of the Bronx back in the 70s, like the tower blocks and the projects were all on fire. There was rubble everywhere, there was gangs everywhere, and it looked like bloody well, it
It
just
looked
looked
like
like a war
Beirut.
zone. It
It looked
did,
like
it did.
Beirut.
And for a load of 12, 13, and 14-year-old black kids coming together, playing with a record, finding a sound
Yeah.
and going, what's this? And then really sinking into that sound and developing that further. Then going, right, we're going to invent a crossfader and get two records. And like, you almost had to have zero education in music in order to discover that. Because if you have any sort of formal education, it can pull you in a certain direction. You learn the rules and you follow the rules. But a lot of these ones just invented by playing. And how the hell did who invented, well, we know who invented windmills, but the idea of spinning on your back, spinning on your head, spinning windmills, flares, all this, it's incredible that kids were coming up with these ideas.
Yeah.
And it's like, where did those ideas come from? It wasn't them. It was something
It was within the music as well. It was almost like you find the expression that goes
right.
with the music. When we look at particular styles of music and
Hmm.
particular dance seems to work well
Right.
with that. That's what I always thought. That I almost
All
think,
elements, but all
yeah,
elements. This is the thing that fascinates me. All elements of hip hop. So breaking, MCing, rapping, and graffiti, they're all so similar, even though they're four different elements. So the breaking aspect to me is the physical representation of hip hop culture. Graffiti is the visual representation, DJing's oral, and rapping's the vocal. But if you look at a graffiti artist or a graffiti style, and you look at breaking styles, there's similarities. So, say for example, a graffiti artist doing sharp lines and curves. You watch a breaker, he'll have smooth
Sharp
lines
lines,
and
yeah,
sharp edges and poses where it's like he's a character.
yeah,
So like his silhouette, if you were to paint him all black, does it still look cool? That sort of way. So
yeah,
we can draw inspiration from graffiti for our moves. You hear scratching, and they're cutting up a
yeah,
track.
yeah,
That's like graffiti, the way it's like they're cutting the
yeah.
letters and changing things. And in rapping, the way they're
Timing
syncopating
and stuff.
and
Yeah.
in between beats, on beats, and then changing up the flows, fast, slow. It's all the same, just represented slightly different.
Yeah, but it's almost like you couldn't have had it happen any other way. Do you know
Right.
what I mean? That's why I think that's a great way of putting it. Is that every element of it kind of complements each
Hmm.
other. But it was almost like the idea of the spin whenever they were doing, the rollback,
Mm-hmm.
whatever else, it was like that that was physically represented it in the spin on the ground and
Yeah,
stuff, so
exactly.
the
Yeah.
fact that your thing is that for me it was just this constant motion.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Mm-hmm.
always there was always this idea that's
Mm-hmm.
constant motion. You keep moving, you keep moving, you keep
Mm-hmm.
moving,
Mm-hmm.
because the record doesn't stop.
Yes. Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
deck keeps spinning, even if the record's not on, the deck's still
Yeah.
spinning. And that it's
Yeah.
amazing how that all kind of translates into
Yes,
the whole of the culture coming
for sure.
together into that.
Well, flow is a term that's used throughout all the elements. Like like how you flow on the floor, how your art flows, how your
Hmm.
rhymes flow. And yeah, like yeah, flow's a really important term, I suppose. And then we get into the flow state
Yeah.
during it all. So
So talk to us a wee bit about, where obviously this is a major part of
mhm.
your life, and in terms of, so we've heard a wee bit about how you got into it. We've heard about, you doing the battles kind of thing, getting your confidence and stuff going. Give us a try and give us a wee bit of a lead up to where Fifth Element now
Mm,
becomes part of that there, because obviously, as you say, it's become the major thing of your
mhm,
life in regards
mhm.
to most of what you do revolves around
Yeah.
this art form and stuff.
Mhm.
Talk to us a wee bit about how you got there.
Yeah, so yeah, I suppose after starting the battles and stuff, like I said, we came back to Belfast and just started like going, right, let's create a battle and started there. And uh we created a battle called Cyber Sessions, and it started in a pub. We only had 15 breakers take part. You need 16 to have a decent 8v8 and bring it
Hmm.
down to 1v1. But it grew to the point where like the name, our crew name, Northern Souls Crew, and the battle format was growing, and people were coming from different parts of Europe to go to it, and we were establishing ourselves. But during all of that, through running events and running jams and battles and stuff, we also started teaching workshops. And in hip hop and in breaking, especially, the term "each one teach one" is quite popular. And these aren't mantras just to be taken lightly. It's an actual way of thinking. And what that basically means is if you have an ability that can help someone or improve their life, teach them it.
Mm.
And we all learned hip hop through absorbing it through free channels, through knowing someone who could teach you, and then meeting the BCB. Like I started going to BCB classes. I would pay them, for the regular classes. But after like 2 months ago, and they came to me, it was like, don't pay anymore. Just come to the training. And that was again a massive, oh wow, shit, maybe there's something here in me that
Hmm.
they can see. Um, but that idea of always passing on and teaching became part and parcel of what we did. So I ended up getting involved in teaching lots and lots of classes for different little organizations, things like that. Then I partnered up with T13. So T13 used to be a big skate park down in the Titanic Quarter. Shout out Liam, shout out Matt. And those guys, like they built something amazing for Belfast, massive skate park down there. They liked breaking, they loved the alternative street culture of that, and they got us involved. So we became part of like a dance troupe in there that ran battles down there, taught workshops, and became part of their education team. Through that, I started connecting with other youth groups like alternative education and different sort of charitable organizations. And myself and a friend back in the day, Kim, we even started trying our own social enterprise, not having a clue what we were doing, called
Yeah.
4B. Taught kids here, there, and everywhere, and it was good, but it was short lived, I suppose. And then went back to just running the battles again, and then I think then the battle stopped, and that for me was like right. When I say the battle stopped, I mean the event that I was running called Cyber Sessions it peaked, and I wasn't making any money on any of these battles. Like we were getting like 500 people as an audience and selling tickets, and I
Hmm.
was still losing money like every time. And I was like, I can't keep doing these battles. And I was doing the battles for the love of it, for the scene, for the b-boys, to try and grow breaking, but that wasn't working financially. So anyway, went back to training. Was just like, right, what's next? Just keep breaking, just enjoy it. And then I met a guy called Terry Connolly. He's also from Dungannon direction, near where I'm from. He was getting into hip hop. He started breaking with us. He's a youth worker. He's done youth work all around parts of Africa, all around Ireland,
Hmm.
all the rest. And yeah, so me and him, we chatted more about just this idea of like teaching kids hip hop and getting more people into it and stuff like that. So we decided this idea is like, why don't we just start a charity? Like he's got charitable
Right.
experience. I've done loads and loads of teaching of kids throughout the years. Forget, let's see what we can do. So we put together the name Fifth Element. We launched it, set it up with Charity Commission, and then we started to enroll, not enroll, was it? Invite like people to come into the fold to try and help with the idea of what we were trying to do, which was to bring hip hop to the masses, teach workshops, get more people into hip hop in
Uh-huh.
Belfast. But we knew early on that in order for hip hop and this idea to kind of take flight, it couldn't just be breakers. So we were like, right, hip hop as a culture needs to
Okay.
unite. So in Belfast, there would have been rappers, breakers, DJs, and graffiti artists all doing their own thing, but not connecting on in hip hop. So our first protocol was like, right, let's get rappers involved. Let's get a DJ. Let's get some graffiti artists, and that's where it slowly picked up. So teamed up with the Elixir guys. So if you know about Elixir, Elixir is like a monthly hip hop rap show that goes on class. It features a lot of really really dope young rappers from Belfast. Those guys joined, and we joined up with Skank FM. So this is Daz. Shout out Daz. Daz an absolute legend. Like he's been running Skank FM. You want to talk about obsession and hip hop? He's a man to talk to. Like,
Okay.
but he's been running Skank FM hip hop radio station for 20 years. And he joined Fifth Element, and then that's pretty much when we really started to grow because like brought a level of professionalism into it and a workability like no other.
Okay.
And Terry found a building for us, which was the old ranking building on Great Victoria Street, the huge old furniture shop, 4 stories.
Uh-huh.
Mate, we took this place on within 1 year of starting the charity. We had no money in the bank. We didn't even have a website.
Right.
We had a logo, right? And we
Right.
were teaching workshops. And you know, we're slowly finding our feet. And Terry goes, guys, we've got a building. We need a building. I was like, Terry, you're a madman if you think I'm going to be getting
Yeah.
invested into a building right now. But we did. Like a bunch of lunatics, we took it on, and it was 4 stories, mate. And that lasted about 2.5 years in that one building. We graffitied every inch of that building on the inside,
Right.
with the permission of the landlord. Turned it into a hip hop tower in the
Right.
middle,
Okay.
middle of the city centre, and the rest is history. Now, that's when we really started to form what we currently do at Fifth Element, which is workshops, events, jams. Like we're very much about bringing the community in, even if you're not into hip hop. Like say you're like we've got swing dancers coming in now. We've got the Ormo Cinema Club. We've got loads of other little initiatives coming to use our space, and that's again the ethos of hip hop, which is community based,
Mm-hmm.
and this whole each one teach one, each one reach one. So if you have somebody who you know you can help, even if it's not within the realm
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
hip hop, do, because it's just going to help Fifth Element as well in the long run. So after 2.5 years of there, the landlord came in one day and saw all the graffiti, which he had agreed to, by the way, and he was totally fine. But he had a client with him who was trying to sell this building. Now, the way it worked was we weren't paying him rent because we were a charity. It meant his vacant building liability, his rates were waived.
Okay.
So we were saving him 80 grand a year, no bother. But to him, there was no skin off his nose for some reason. But when he came in, he saw the graffiti and saw what we were doing, even though he knew we were a charitable organization, worked with plenty of youth groups and different community groups and different, what do you call it, help programs. And we were doing a lot of really good stuff. And we were letting kids come in and draw on the walls and
Yeah.
all that. He came in with a client. He was like, right, get out. And before you do, paint all this back to white. This thing was 4 stories tall, man. It took us 4 months to paint it. And we were painting it out of our own pocket. And he didn't put a single penny into it, even though we saved him 250,000 over 3 years. So that left a bitter taste in our mouth. So we learned a lot from that. Anyway, we moved up to an old Masonic lodge after
Right.
that, up in Park Road, up the Ormer Road. And this is a detached Mason's lodge.
Right.
And inside, it's as you'd expect. There's like altars upstairs. There's a blue room, a red room. There's robes and stuff. There's like, it all had like that, what you would expect, that sort of air of mystery about it. But we took it over. We didn't paint on any of the walls. We were smart about it, and we've been there 2.5 years now as well. And it's just been incredible, to be fair. So Fifth Element is doing incredible things for a lot of people at the moment, and it's based off of the team that we have and all the guys involved and all the people who support. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
So, in terms of obviously, you mentioned you've done workshops and all this kind of stuff. You're working with schools and all that kind of stuff. What are we talking about in terms of reach? So if
Hmm.
you were talking about, how many people on a regular basis are you
Hmm.
guys connecting with in terms of, or who's coming in through the door?
Okay. Well, it's hard to put a number on it. Like, it's in the thousands, not weekly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. But in
but
terms of total wise,
I'd say like 100 plus a week
right?
sort of thing, and that's different groups. So we have, like I say, swing dancers. They're like 30 strong. They come in, they use the space, and they all donate to the charity. And we have multiple bands, dozens of DJs, dozens of rappers, full squads of breakers coming through. We run monthly fundraising events where we can garner up to about 100, 150 people. And these are all old school ravers from back in the day,
Right.
like who would have been in their heyday in the 90s, would have been loving the Belfast nightlife scene, and
Right.
then they all
Okay.
grew up, had kids, and their kids have grown up, and now they've got a new taste of freedom. So we have these, they're not, I don't want to call them like over 40 raves, but everybody in it's over 40, like.
I'm sitting here going like I'm 50, so mate,
Mate, no, you'd
it.
look young as some of these. No, but listen, that's not to discredit anyone. It's incredible. It's called Plan B.
Right.
This is the name of the organization. So, do you know a man called Adi McLaughlin by any chance?
The name is very
He
familiar.
Old school Belfast City Breakers member.
Right.
I've known 80 for many years. 80's a great guy. He's energy like no other, and he started running these Plan B nights with a guy called David Anderson. And
Right.
David Anderson was a DJ, was involved in the Belfast Underground Records and stuff, like
Oh yeah,
big
right.
big
Okay,
name
right.
big name among the DJs over here. Now I don't want to say anything out of place because I grew up in Armagh. I wasn't here during the heyday, so I don't know all the names, but I'm learning, and I love it because I used to hear about Vicos and Gyros and all these bars that were class back in the day that I never got to,
Yeah.
but the culture I always heard about, and we've essentially kind of recreated that with Fifth
Brilliant.
Element. So all of the heads who used to go to those places are now coming here, and it's a renaissance for a lot of them. So they show up once a month and they meet their old friends from way back in the day, and there's all this love in the building, and they're all teenagers again. And honestly, you walk in and it's just this feeling of warmth and love. And you talk about like community spirit, like if anything, Plan B really helped solidify our focus as a charity. So before we were like, oh, hip hop, this, that, and everything. Now it's community, and we've realized, obviously, especially after COVID, the more you can bring people together, the more happier people are, and giving them all a common interest and a common love to share,
Yeah.
and give them that once a month, like they do support us so
Yeah.
much in what we do. And say we have to move building tomorrow, we'll have an army of people there to help.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing, like, really.
But I think what you're tapping into though is essentially is, without wanting to sound funny about it, is that we're made for connection.
We are,
We're
yeah.
made for connection, and if you can get the connection to that thing, there's something, even as if we've been talking tonight, there's something about being able to connect to this stuff in your childhood that maybe you haven't had a chance
Hmm.
to do for a long period of time, or haven't, other things have gotten away. There's something about reconnecting
Hmm.
with that there that just sparks something on the inside of people. And if you're generating that on like a regular basis for people, no wonder people are coming in.
Well, that's it. Like, and we started a charity not knowing how to run a charity or anything like that. But over the years, we've learned, and there's been a couple of success stories. If you don't mind me
Yeah, work away.
waxing lyrical on, like, so Daz, who's involved in Fifth Element, he's now working for the Rio Ferdinand Foundation
Right,
as
okay.
head of programming for the Rio Ferdinand charity, which is incredible, and that's off the back of volunteering at Fifth Element.
Uh-huh.
We're all volunteers at Fifth Element. There's no one paid, and
Right.
this is the thing that I'm trying to, like, almost encourage, is a sense of like the outcome, the social connections that we build, and the communities that we pull together. Like, that's the wealth. That's the
Uh-huh.
real wealth. Like, I don't need to be paid in order to see these many people come and be happy on a regular basis. And like the feelings you get from walking and just seeing the love there,
Hmm.
like that to me will outlast any amount of money that you get paid for doing X, Y, and Z. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, there's workshops and there's ways that we can, like, uh, go in, teach workshops, get paid through those sort of channels. But ultimately, like, Fifth Element's there to kind of bring people together. And we call it kind of like an incubator. If somebody has an idea or a small fan base that they want to grow, come to Fifth Element, because there's a space there for you to create your vision and bring people in to to show them your vision and then build a fan base around that, and then that you can take anywhere. So we've had a number of things come through, from clothing labels to different DJs who are building their little fan bases, to rappers building their fan bases, and it's all, the charity wants to do this for free because we know what it's like as artists,
Yeah.
and we know what it's like to struggle and not have somewhere to go or people to support you.
Mm-hmm.
So to actually be able to go, why am I doing this all? Like, putting so much effort into this. Like, I mean, I'm pretty much working 2 jobs, right? Running the charity as well as everything. But the deeper meaning is so much more valuable than trying to capitalize off that. Do you know what I mean? And as soon as you try to capitalize off it, the whole vibe changes. Do you know what I mean? If we try and turn this into business tomorrow, the support wouldn't be as real.
But that's part of the whole idea, for want of a better, it's called the congruence, you know, the idea, the genuineness in regards to that. Because once you flip that switch where money becomes the motivating factor, everybody gets that.
Yeah.
And then your motivations for what you're doing start to be questioned as a
It
result of
divides
that.
people as well, because if no one's getting paid, we all feel the same. But if you
Yeah.
go, right, no, you're getting paid for that, but you're not getting paid, it's like, well, that's where it starts to crumble.
Yeah.
And we're not about that. So luckily everybody involved in the team are all very much bought into this vision of like the selfless act of passing on, giving back. You know, when hip hop always talks about giving back, give it to the next generation, let them carry the torch. And BCB did that with us. Like they brought a lot of breakers up, and they now get to sit back and see it flourish in a sense.
Yeah.
And to have them come down the Fifth Element and give us their blessing and kudos for doing what we're doing is like, it's kind of
It's hard to believe that they're still knocking about. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, I mean, in terms of when I think about, you know, like that's that 1984, 85 period for me, and those guys were knocking about. And we're now here in 2024, and the BCB are still
That's right.
are still knocking about, like, you know.
And that's why I felt kind of weird being the person you're interviewing, because to me, Booski Boo should be the man you're talking to. Hey, no, shout out Boo. Like, Boo is a old school member of Belfast City Breakers. We brought him into Northern Souls crew there 2 years ago because he's been a mentor to a lot of people. Like he's been breaking 40 years, 35 years maybe, and he's still going, and he's still mentoring, and he's still just showing that, yeah, even if you're 56, 57, getting close to 60, you can still do it. He can still bust out killer windmills, man. Like, unreal.
I'd say if I was a full windmill, mate, this building would fall down, to be honest with you. This sort of, like, no, I have a, no, the only thing I can roll is my belly, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? No, for me. But it is one of those things, you know. I think there's the odd time, you know, I have to say that, but I remember busting something at a wedding and stuff, you know, was that, and a particular tune come on, and I ended up doing this thing. I just about got a backspin in,
Right.
and about maybe 15 seconds worth of a crab walk, and it was like kind of going, I needed a sauna and a jacuzzi after it, you know what I mean? Like, it was like kind of going,
Yeah, physio.
listen, that wasn't ways,
fair
ways,
play,
you
though.
know, so I needed about 10 tubes of PP on me or something afterwards, you know, but it is one of those things you look back on and kind of go, God, you know, I used to be able to do some pretty mental stuff, like, you know what I mean? So
But what you're saying there about, like, there's something there, and I've heard this mentioned before, that like we're called B-boys and B-girls because we're boys and girls at heart. Even if you're older, right? There's still that young boy in me that is that I want to impress, or I've got that feeling of a young child whenever I hit a new move or I see something that inspires you, you know, and it's allowed me to hold on to my youth to a certain degree.
But it is ridiculous today. Like, I mean, I watched some of the, you know, the championship stuff that you do. You look at even at the kids and stuff now, you're like kind of going, holy God. I mean, if we were getting on like that whenever we were kids, you know, like it's mob, but just where the in terms of the creativity comes up for some of the stuff that those guys are coming up with now in terms of moves and stuff, you know, and even the robotic stuff. Oh my word, I was watching somebody the other day, I was like going, I mean, you used to think if you could just lock a wee bit, you know, then that robot stuff. But these guys are just ridiculous, you know, and even because I know that a lot of those things a lot of it's also the spontaneous element, because there's a DJ obviously spinning live in the background and a lot of those things. And for those guys to be hitting stuff that's in complete
Unison.
sync
Yeah.
with this type of stuff is crazy. But the stuff that they do now in terms of, it's not even the windmill and stuff like that. There's that whole handspin, the contortion things, and all
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
kind of things.
Yeah.
It's just wild, so it is, you know.
You can, it's easy to feel left behind even now. I'm turning 40 this year, and I know I'm not going to be like the world's greatest b-boy, but to me it's, again, like I was saying earlier, like real recognizes real. Like if you can see somebody's put the effort in over his life, like you gotta
Yeah.
respect that. Doesn't matter where they get to, almost, right?
Uh-huh.
It's though, it's, to me, I respect those who have perseverance over anybody. Like people can be winners can be a flash in the pan, basically, right? um but like real winners to me are the ones who can just keep going, and that's the likes of Boone, that's the likes of the Belfast City Breakers. They're
Yeah.
still doing it, like,
Well,
and
those are the guys that really got it. You know, those are the guys that went a bit beyond the fad thing. Because for me, I almost feel like a wee bit of a faker. Do you know what I mean? Because for me, it was 2 years, maybe max, of my life.
man, you
And
got windmills. I'm still trying to get windmills. Nah, you're not, that's not fake, dude.
no, no, well, listen, as I say, if you see me try to pull a windmill now, you know, the only windmill I'm going to is the one down my leg, you know. So, but you know, but even, you know, you think about, you know, the style and everything that they come with it. But even just, I think for me, the innovation stuff that was a part of that. But as I
Mm,
was saying, those guys have stuck with it. You know, it was something that really seeped down into
mm-hmm.
their soul. I mean,
Yeah.
it wasn't just, hey, this is a fad. They found something while I bang a life out of my mic there, but they found something that connected
An addiction.
deep in here. You know, really,
Yes, it
the
is.
obsession. That's the whole thing. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they filled their life full of this stuff, and the idea that, you know, life without this
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you need that. Like we joke about a lot in breaking, is like you need that pain in your life. You need that struggle, because it's what makes things worthwhile. If everything was easy, it's not worthwhile, right?
But
You know, and it's the same in all sort of alternative cultures. Like people who are into surfing will keep an eye on the waves and see a swell and take the day off. Like that to me is
mm,
like, I love that. I love that people go, my life's not defined by the work or the money or whatever. It's defined by what I actually want to go and do, and what I want to, feel. And you know, to draw comparisons to that surfing analogy there, like we were the same. Like when we had nowhere to train, we were like finding anywhere to train. We were going into restaurants, going,
mm,
we noticed upstairs is empty. Can we use upstairs in a restaurant where people are eating downstairs and we're
yeah,
spinning around upstairs, or breaking into somewhere because there's like a floor available, or going to just finding any. We used to go and train in nightclubs
yeah,
after the night of a nightclub was on, and the
yeah.
floor was covered in glass and
Crap.
blood and stickiness, and your shoes were stuck, but we were there mopping just before the session, just to have a session, you
Yeah.
know. And then that became like, yeah, that's also part of the fun, is finding somewhere to train, just like a grapher trying to find somewhere to spray up,
But
you know.
even I go back to one about, you know, you would have done anywhere.
Yeah,
You would have went anywhere to kind of, but
hence
usually
the
because of,
lino.
yeah, well, but that was it. Have Leno will travel, but you know, there was a place down by the one of the train stations, not central, but as you get closer out towards, you know, coming into East Belfast, there was there was a tunnel area there as
Mm,
you went in, and that's where we went.
brilliant.
You know, because you knew one, if the rain comes on, we're covered,
That's it.
and you know, it
You
doesn't really
needed a
matter.
roof more than a floor, you know,
Yeah,
after
yeah,
that.
yeah. No, yeah, that was part of it, you know. But it also was that almost the natural reverb from that. Whenever you put your music on,
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm,
automatically
mm,
reverberated around as well. So you kind of, it was like it filled
yeah.
the whole space and everything like that there. Do you know what I mean? And that was your ideal scenario. That's, you knew we're going to be there, and it was almost like you didn't know, you didn't need to go and look for anybody. Going, that's probably where we're
Yeah.
going to be.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there was also that whole idea of the way that it looked when you traveled around the gallery. You know, but you were always
Mm-hmm.
you're always in the group.
Mm-hmm.
There was
Mm-hmm.
always us hanging about the gallery. People arrived at your door. I remember, you know, people arrived at the door. There's like 25 people at the door waiting on you. Your mom thinks you're about to get trailed for something. You know what I mean? It's actually
Yeah.
just everybody. Then she looks at everybody's wearing the same clothes. Everybody, you know.
It's a load of guys in shell suits.
That's another guys wearing pubic suits here and stuff. You know what I mean? And then. I remember getting my name put on mine. You know, we were down in Port Royce and my mom thought that I'd ruined my tracksuit because I had my name put on it and stuff. You know what I mean? So, but it's a great thing. But your thing is that for me, you've also mentioned something there in regards to one with the BCB, but also yourselves in regards to the idea of community. And I think, with when I recollect one of another standout, it's amazing the memories that come back just from that 2 year period of your life. It was a challenge that took place between a crew from the Short Strand
Mm-hmm.
and us,
Right.
and it was right on what would have became the peace lane. So it was right on the
Mm.
interface. So this big, massive piece of lino was put out right in that period. So half on
Class.
the tire, half on, and having, instead of throwing bricks and bottles, we were throwing down moves with each
Yeah,
other. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
certainly.
And it's still to this day. I recall. I can almost, like, I'm there. I'm there now. I can
Yeah,
see it. I
yeah.
can see it happening. You know what I mean? It was just amazing stuff. And but I suppose that's also something that's been into the fabric of my life. That it's
Mm,
that I still have. I can, even though I went in a group of hurl and became a metalhead, and
mm.
guitars and stuff with music. But it's even now, there's a connection with that. And one of the things, I play flute and stuff as well. And recently I did an old TV theme tune. But I did it to a DJ Shadow style.
Class.
But there was a guy from funny enough, from Afghanistan,
Right.
who did the backing. And I said, listen, I want something a DJ Shadow style to play this over the top
Mm.
of. And he created this thing. Now, unfortunately, he put accordions in, which was just a no-no for me. Like, accordions, just no. Anybody who knows me knows I hate those things. All right, if you can play one, brilliant, but just keep them away from me.
Right.
But it was just, there's still that element of that. And then I've been sneakily doing, because DJing's got a lot easier and stuff now in terms of
Mm.
all the digital based stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I got myself a unit and stuff, and I've been, digitizing all my old so I've still got some of my old
Class.
electro records, and trying to mix this stuff myself, rather than,
Going doing LA
you're,
beats versus New
exactly,
York
it's
mix.
it's New York versus LA beats and stuff, putting it all together, So it's amazing that even though it's not an integral part of life
Right.
for me, it's still hanging up. It's still hanging
Well,
about there. It's left a.
well, do you think you would have gotten into metal had you not discovered alternative scenes? Because it's very easy to kind of stay with what you're taught and known.
Mm,
But I always had this like fascination with the alternative, if you know what I mean, from skateboarding to horror movies to like B movies to stuff
yeah,
like nobody else saw. And I think that like if I didn't wasn't in the breaking, I could have been into any of that sort of stuff.
yeah.
So that's what I'm wondering. Like for you, do you reckon it kind of led to that way?
I don't know, because there's maybe an element of that, that's true, Paul.
Mm,
Maybe that is part of why I went down that lane, because again, it wasn't necessarily what you'd have considered to be. It was almost a subculture. It wasn't. It was outside the norm.
mm-hmm,
Everybody else was running about in particular types of clothing or whatever. We would have called the trendy period.
mm-hmm,
People wearing
mm-hmm.
20 pleat trousers, all this kind of stuff, pink jumpers and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And here's us running about in
Short
black,
suit. Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
in
yeah,
full
yeah.
on and black, and
So it was
skirt.
almost anti something rather than pro something else.
But it was almost like,
Yeah.
for me, there was almost a throwback against, because there was almost a sense of, and I hate saying this, but there always was a sense of maybe evil attached to it, in
Mm.
terms of that there's a dark
Well,
element to
yeah,
metal.
but I think metal, especially in Northern Ireland as well, like there's a really big rock and metal scene here in Belfast, bigger than hip hop,
Yeah,
and I always question again why, and I think it's because, geez, there's some dark times, right?
yeah,
And dark, angry music is cathartic.
yeah,
And that, like, it's breaking's cathartic, and this is my way of getting rid of my stress. But I can fully understand, like, full head metal, head bang, and all that. Like, they're some of the nicest people you can meet. And why? Because they're chilled. They've
yeah.
just been screaming all
Yeah,
night.
yeah, no, I didn't. But it was one of those kind of things. It was a wee bit of a go against the grain, but as you say, Northern Ireland has a real, rock connection. You
Mm.
think of the likes of Thin Lizzy, and
Yeah, the
that
whole
type of
punk
stuff.
scene, and
Rory
even
Gallagher, punk
yeah,
and stuff.
yeah,
Punk's still massive. You think
uh-huh,
of Therapy and stuff even now. And some of the bands that have come from the
mm,
island as a whole. In terms of have had a real influence and so on. And I think that's, but I think that's also something that maybe that it's not given a lot of credit for, in terms of Northern Ireland has been very almost, for want of it, has embraced a hell of a lot in terms of
oh,
the
big time,
arts,
yeah,
and it's probably one of the few places you can find absolutely
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go almost
Yeah.
searching for it. You can if you're into a particular style of
Mm-hmm.
music, you're going to find a group of people that's into it.
You're not going to get the same amount of people
Yeah,
into it,
yeah,
but the
but
passion of those
that's
people is going
exactly
to be
it.
the
That's
same depth
exactly it.
for sure. Like,
Because we're all in, and
yeah.
I think that's it. We're all in with the
You're just
stuff. You know what
happy
I
to
mean?
see find somebody
Yeah,
else
yeah,
half the time. You're like,
yeah,
oh, somebody else is into this.
yeah,
Like that's the funny thing about anything that becomes popular. The more popular it becomes, the less popular it also becomes for a lot of
yeah,
people. Like for me, as soon as if breaking was ever to break into the mainstream and every Joe Soap's doing it, like I would be happy because I know that it'll take serious ability to obviously keep at it. But I suppose breaking's not the best example, but you can look at music, for example, like how, like you mentioned, DJing's become easier and music production and stuff like that. Like people can produce real trash now easier. So then
yeah,
it's like trendy stuff is more flash in the pan. So whereas I think playing an instrument or learning a really physically difficult dance, it takes everybody who's doing either of those like 20 years to get properly good
yeah,
at it.
yeah.
Like it doesn't go away. Like it has to stay around and
No,
you know.
I think that, but it is. I think that that's an element of that here they do get into stuff,
Hmm.
yeah, I think you're right. I don't think breaking probably is maybe a bit. It's not a mainstream thing, but it's not also when you think about it in a worldwide context.
Mm, hmm.
Breaking has one hell of a following, in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah,
the amount
yeah.
of b-boys, the
Hmm.
crews and stuff that exist and whatever else. It's a lot. There's a lot more people involved in it
Yeah,
now today than whenever
for sure. Yeah.
obviously whenever it started because it had that
Hmm.
almost the American connotation and stuff.
Hmm.
But it's massive in terms of its appeal, even right across the world. You know what I mean? You
Yeah,
think
yeah,
about
for
even
sure.
Central Europe. In Central
Hmm.
Europe, they have France and Germany and so
Right.
on. The scene's massive there.
It's
You know what
crazy.
I mean?
Like,
So
I mean, we interviewed B-boys from Ukraine. Like, this is obviously before the war and all, but even some who are from Siberia, who are living in snowland, and you're like, how did you get in the break-in? And these are like guys who are at the top of their game, top in the
uh-huh.
world almost, and we're like, how did you get in the break-in? It was like, well, somebody had a VHS tape, blah, blah," and you're like, holy shit! So as soon as something landed somewhere and somebody got hold of it, then it just started to
Yeah,
propagate.
and that's the thing because there's the historical aspect of it is that you say is really interesting, because having a VHS tape of
Mm,
Beat Street,
mm-hmm,
or having Wild Style
mm.
or whatever. I know there's DVD. You can download Beat Street on Apple. You can
Yeah.
go get it on there, and there's
It's
even
really
deleted
not worth
scenes.
it. Like
Well,
it is for if you
it
want
is
to
if you're
laugh.
into that type of stuff. You know what I mean?
But I would say that if you're gonna like if you want to dip into hip hop, don't start there. I suppose in a way, start
Yeah.
go backwards to learn it. I would
Yeah,
say
yeah, no,
like
for me, there's definitely scenes in there. For me, Beat Street is the up rock scene in there, and all the other bits and pieces
uh,
as well. There's some great stuff in
oh,
there.
there is for sure.
The
Yeah.
subway battle scene is just
But there's a lot of really bad stuff too. Like
there is. I mean,
there's if, like it might have been Beat
Lee's
Street.
poor,
Do you ever remember Jean-Claude Van Damme doing a cameo in one of them? Mate, it's so embarrassing. Like it's in Venice Beach or something like this, and there's a cipher and there's a guy in a leotard just gyrating in the background, and it's Jean-Claude Van Damme just on a circle, like, and everybody in the 80s was just really camp and grinding it out.
Yeah.
And I was just like, breaking doesn't look
No,
like
it's not that,
that.
but for me, no, definitely, I definitely wouldn't be going. For me, the more gritty stuff is
Yeah, yeah.
probably where you really should be.
Style Wars and all
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
that's
all that
that
stuff.
for me
Yeah,
is the real, because it's as close to what
yeah,
the reality of it was,
for
back.
sure.
I mean, you can't not look at the scene, where they're hooking up to the power outside a
Hmm.
derelict building because that's where they're having their party in.
Yeah,
I mean, that was the reality
yeah.
of how these things. And even when you watch, did you watch the Get Down?
I haven't.
You
No.
have watched the Get Down. The Get Down, I think, is a Netflix thing, and it's all
Is it the
about.
documentary
No,
series?
no, it's like it's a dramatized
Right.
kind
Oh,
of
yeah,
approach.
yeah,
It
okay.
takes elements of the birth of hip hop
Hmm.
and about how it all started to come into play. So it's those early parties,
Right. So
with
yeah,
Herc and
yeah,
all
yeah,
those
yeah.
kind of things, and where the crews and all started to come from. You
I
should
did.
definitely
I
get
did
a.
start watching this. I do. I remember years ago. Now I just hadn't. Yeah, seen it
Yeah,
through.
I
I
should
need to
definitely because it
check
was
it.
one of those when I seen it, I was like, going, I need to watch that. And even though there's probably elements of it that are obviously traumatized for a
Yeah.
fact and whatever else, but you got the sense of, hey,
Mm.
there's an element that this is where a lot of this stuff
Mhm.
came from. And then obviously you have a lot of there's the history hip hop documentary stuff that recently where they've kind of connected with all the
Yeah.
old DJs, and
Mm.
I love hearing that stuff. It's
Mhm.
like going only because there's a wee element of me that has
The young boy.
a wee connection in there. You know
Yeah,
what I
man.
mean? So, and I
That's
think
class.
that's it drags you in. And where hip hop went to, I think for me, some of the stuff in hip hop, some of the elements of rap and stuff
Mm.
now, it does my loafing.
Yeah.
I mean, some of it's just ridiculously.
Well, again, that's just a commercialization of anything, really. Like, there's the purity that still exists. There's the underground hip hop that will always exist, and then there's the stuff that always changes on the surface, and that's just whatever's popular. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
100% agree. Like, not to sound like a Puritan, I don't want to be like, because
Uh-huh.
like things have to evolve, and there's even debates even in the breaking world of like, is this even breaking anymore? Because it
Yeah.
doesn't look like the way it used to. But the essence and the mentality is still there, so I say it is. And even when the rap world, like it's still the same sort of, it is still the same idea of like anybody can make it with hip hop.
Yeah.
You can be as broke as anyone else, and but if you have that fire and that desire, you can go after it. Like,
Yeah, no, no, I think that's definitely right. I mean, you think of some of the people that have made their
hmm
through, through rapping
like
and all
all
that
the rap,
kind of
yeah,
stuff. You know
the
what I mean?
rags
And
to riches stories. Yeah,
there's been loads of that. And but because my kids the odd time I get into the car, they're like, "Well, I've run the jewels on," and they're like,
right. I used to fucking love Road to
sorry,
Juice. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
so good.
And they're like, "Oh, what is this?" And I like, "Oh, no, it's Run the Jewels, and they're like, it's, for me, stuff like that is
Mm,
there's like I find a connection back. Yes,
right.
it still has the politicking element to it, but for me, it's not quite that gangster
Yeah.
stuff. But
There's a message there. It's not just I know what you mean. It's not
it's not just sex, drugs, and rap.
right. Yeah, it's not shallow like that,
Yeah,
right? And obviously the commercialization will make it like that. And okay, you can look back at the birth of Public Enemy, for example, is like, oh, some people criticize that, but it was important at the time because of the message. But then
yeah,
obviously that the image of the gangster rap comes out, and then it gets marketed, and oh, that worked for them, it'll work for this guy,
yeah.
and that's the unfortunate
But
side
but,
of it.
but even for me, even Public Enemy changed the face of rap to some degree because a lot of their bars and stuff, just didn't have that natural rhyming element to it.
It
They
was
really
shouting.
but
Yeah.
they cut stuff up, and then in order to be it made sense for them. You think about it, it wasn't that classic,
hmm
da 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 da. It was like they really messed with the
Yeah.
timing and stuff, and then obviously the message made it as hard
hmm
as it possibly
hmm
could be. Do you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think that it's listen to white boy talking about
Yeah, the two white boys.
do
Like,
you know what I
well,
mean?
no,
Like,
yeah, true, but I think that just shows respect if you're able to talk about it, in my opinion. But yeah, but even like Public Enemy, the fact that they had Flava Flav in that, in order to not. It was almost to be like, yes, we are serious, but we're an entertainment side to us too. And Flava Flav with the big clock and the
yeah,
hey, oh, sorry,
you're all
doing
right.
that. But like that over exaggerated caricature that he was helped balance out Public Enemy, because that could have just been one dimensional, if you know what I mean. Was, oh, we're gonna fight the power all the time,
Yeah.
but Flava Flav just helped balance it out, and obviously gave them a lot more sort of longevity
Yeah,
with
and
it.
then they
So
have that crossover thing. For me, the crossover stuff with the likes of Anthrax and stuff,
right,
with I'm the Man and,
yeah,
all that kind of thing, where there was the metal crossover. And I think that also, obviously, there's always been an element of the rock crossover because obviously, Walk This Way, the
yeah,
Aerosmith aspect,
yeah,
and, being a major influence on Run DMC and stuff,
hmm
and I think, I often find that those paths just seem to cross over, and
hmm
and it's interesting you mentioned about getting into the metal, and then the metal rap thing kind of
yeah,
there was always there's been some cracking
hmm
crossovers in
hmm
terms of that. But in terms of going back to your B-boy and stuff, what does the future look like for Fifth Element and your crew now? Because obviously, where you see yourself going.
That's probably the hardest question to ask, because I've never asked that in the 20 years I've been doing this,
And
and it's been amazing where it's taken me in a sense. So it's more, I'm just excited to see where it does take me. I don't know. Fifth Element, well, I hope that Fifth Element will just keep continuing to grow and do incredible things. And we're fully independent and we're not funded at all by the council or anything. And the reason for that is because we're all volunteers, and it's just it's like getting a second job whenever
Uh-huh.
you're doing council related funding applications. But I suppose the idea next is really probably to legitimize Fifth Element further and actually start building a structure around hiring and giving people an opportunity to work in the
Okay.
charitable sector for Fifth Element. Now I know that kind of goes against what I was saying earlier about this idea of we're all volunteers, but I think if for longevity, it will have to establish some sort of structure in order to keep people maintaining it, because like I know I'll not be around Fifth Elm forever, but for me, I just want to get Fifth Elm to the point where it's self-sustained, that anybody can join it and it'll keep going, or anybody can walk away and it'll keep going.
Yeah.
That's really the dream. And for the crew, it's again, it's just to keep breaking till we're all grandas and
Right. Okay.
we're all getting down at each other's
Yeah.
funerals.
No, and I think you're talking there about sustainability and stuff, and I think while it's one thing to float through the air, air
Hmm.
doesn't put the light on,
Right.
air doesn't put,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't fix the leak in
Hmm.
a roof or whatever else,
Right.
so, you need to have some element of income
Yeah.
to be able to do the things, you know what I mean? And I think
Well,
that's
that's it.
important.
We're starting to really consider a couple of things, because the way we've been working now is that we've been taking over vacant buildings for a number of years until the lease runs out or the landlord wants to do something with that building. So the aim for Fifth Element really is to legitimize it in the sense of like, let's get a building that we can hold for at least
Yeah.
5 years. That way we'll have way more options to then grow. This moving from building to building, even though it's like every 2.5, 3 years or whatever like that, it just puts a wee bit of a wedge in it, and then it can kind of take our eye off what we're doing. But
Yeah.
at the moment, man, it's just I'm loving just letting it take me wherever it's going.
Okay.
And like I've been lucky enough to be invited to battles in other countries. I'm been invited to festivals in Ireland. I've been invited to talks like this, and it's like none of this would have happened. Like I don't think I could have ever planned for anything like this. So
Uh-huh.
don't think I'm going to plan for anything else. I'm just going
Okay.
to see where it goes.
Cool. Well, a couple of areas just to try before we finish off and stuff. Is there anything that you've been involved in terms of Fifth Element that you're particularly proud of?
Oh, mate, where do you start? Yeah, like there's individual stories, and I'll try not to get emotional, but there's individual stories about individuals that are like amazing, and then there's group related stories. So I'll start with a group one because it's less pulling the old heartstrings there. But you mentioned Darren from Beyond Skin, like meeting up with Darren and connecting with Beyond Skin has been incredible, and just in itself, because he's brought so many like refugees through the door. We've met people from Somalia, Eritrea, Sudan, Iran, Afghanistan, like so many different cultures, and to have a creative hub that is so inclusive like that, and people can come and feel like we're not at home, but I feel welcomed
Mm,
and I feel comfortable here. And like in half of these countries, they can't even do the arts that we're doing.
yeah.
Like we have a young guy called Sam. He's from Afghanistan, and his family fled because the Taliban were
Yeah.
looking to go after his family. And he's got load of sisters, and they live here, and they were asylum seekers. Now they got refugee status, thank God, and they're becoming more integrated. But Fifth Element's been a wee lifeline for him, especially because he lost everything, and he's been living here. He's no money for education, like he just can't get moving.
Hmm.
But through coming to Fifth Element, where he's now in the break-in, he's getting his confidence. We're helping him out where we can financially, if we can, trying to give him the odd job, if things need done, right?
Cool.
Just trying to keep him moving, but also trying to just instill in him this idea of like hip hop is a community based
Yeah.
initiative, and he is welcome, and to spread that message. So that's one aspect, and then there's other stories of like people, reformed drug addicts coming in and who had no hope, and now they're rapping and they're writing their thoughts, and it's therapy for
Cool.
them. And okay, it's not gonna, I don't know, it's not going to change their life in terms of making millions, but it might just take them from going, I'm nothing, to I could be something. And to me, that's the biggest reward.
Yeah, and I think you can't underestimate that. And I think it's great that you've mentioned Darren. Darren's been very, key in terms of some of the stuff that I've been involved with them, but I remember doing some stuff around the idea of what's been happening in Afghanistan. You know, when
Hmm.
you think when your life's under threat because you're involved in arts or
Hmm.
you're involved in
Crazy.
music. You know, if you caught with musical instrument, you can be killed for it and stuff.
Hmm.
You know, and I think and yet in the midst of that, there you've got people who are willing to be subversive enough from that to say that regardless,
Hmm.
on pain of death.
I will do this.
I cannot deny this part of me
Right.
that it's that I need to express stuff.
Hmm.
And I think, if some of us were put in a position where you're saying, listen, you can break or you can be killed, and like kind of going, well,
Well,
you know what
die
I mean?
happy then.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's amazing, and I think like you've been doing a number of shoutouts, but shout out Darren's doing an amazing job with.
Shout out Darren.
Definitely, in terms of the work of Beyond Skin and just the fact that he just tirelessly, selflessly,
Hmm.
puts himself in.
Right, and see this is like one of the biggest lessons I've learned as well. Is like there's so much reverence given to people with money or celebrities or whereas why isn't Darren's name? Why is there not a statue of that man in this
Well,
city?
I think I
Right?
think he'd go nuts if there was a
Of
statue
course,
made
yeah, of
of it. You
course.
know
I
what I
know
mean? I
he's
think
too humble, but
you know what I mean?
it's sometimes what I'm saying is the real heroes are the ones who no one know about. You know what I mean? And Darren's one of them in my mind. And there's a lot of really really good people who have changed a lot of lives,
Yeah.
who just don't get the recognition compared to some who just don't deserve it.
Yeah, and you know what I would wax lyrical about that type of stuff myself. I
Hmm.
think it's, you know. And I know they don't do this for any type of shout out. They do it because they believe in what they
Yeah,
do.
exactly.
It's just part of who they are, and I know my life is a lot richer for the fact that he's, broadened some horizons for me and stuff. So the last thing, just to kind of
Hmm.
finish off then, Paul, is people want to get involved with you in regards to
Hmm.
that. How do they do it?
Check out fifthelementni.org if you want to check out more about the charity. We also have Instagram, just fifthelementni_charity. Check out Northern Souls Crew. That's our breaking crew. We also have an Instagram page. You can, yeah, if anybody's interested in any hip hop elements, get in touch. If you're looking to learn breaking or you want us to get involved in a project where we teach dance, let us know. And yeah, if you want to volunteer and get involved with a class growing group of creative individuals, um, give Fifth Element a shout, you know.
Brilliant. Listen, Paul, thanks very much
Thank
for
you, guys.
coming down and doing this here. It's been partly a wee trip down memory lane for me as well, but also great to just connect with you, and the passion that you obviously have for this here. It's evident, and just in terms of how you speak and how animated you get around,
Right, yeah, you can
around
see.
that type of stuff. But I really appreciate you taking the time out to come. And share about that. And hopefully, it's not the last time that we cross paths that way. Be great to kind of do something
Yeah.
along the lines,
Mate, I could recommend 100 people to you who, if you want to talk to obsessives.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's one of those things because I think for me, I'd love to get some old school, like the DJs and stuff like that. There, I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about that type of stuff, because I think that's important. I think for me, some of the DJing that happens in the hip hop scene is the mixture of styles and not just the boom, boom, boom
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
just it's a real art form, and it has become a real art form.
Hmm.
But man, I think that's been absolutely fantastic, brilliant
Thank you very much,
conversation.
man.
Brilliant. So, folks, there you go. That is the end of this episode of Bob and Two Meat. I hope you've enjoyed that conversation. I know I have. That might be a wee bit self-indulgent in terms of the fact that there's a lot of connection with some of the memories that I have, and my own history, my own story going back and stuff. But that's what this podcast is all about. It's all about connecting with the things that people love, the things that have created memories for them, that has influenced and impacted their life and makes their life, actually feel like it's been filled with great stuff, and we're looking for more and more people to come and share those passions with us here on this particular podcast. So, folks, thanks for joining in. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share, do all those kind of things. Check out Fifth Element's website, check out their Instagram, check out their socials. And if it's something you feel like you want to get involved in, definitely get involved in it. But until the next episode, folks, look after yourselves and take it easy.